"You have to earn me," said the one you thought would be yours forever. Have you ever felt the ground slipping away from under your feet? When the reality you lived in suddenly turns out to be nothing but an illusion? Imagine this. You come home, expecting the usual warmth, but instead, you're met with a challenge. A cold stare, a calm yet ruthless voice. I don't feel the same anymore, but maybe, if you try hard enough. This isn't just a story about love and its collapse. It's a chess game of emotions, where every move is a test of inner strength. Manipulations, silent battles, icy phrases, all hiding one question: who will leave first? Who will break? But what if the one they tried to control simply stops playing? What if he just turns around and walks away? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I can still pinpoint the exact moment my world shifted. That evening felt like any other. I walked through the front door, expecting the usual routine. I'd toss my keys on the counter, loosen my tie, and maybe sink into the couch for a few minutes before deciding what to do about dinner. But something was off. The air inside the house carried an unnatural stillness. Fiona, my wife of 7 years, stood in the kitchen, arms folded across her chest. Her expression was unreadable, not upset, not tearful, just distant. When she finally spoke, her voice was composed, deliberate. "We need to talk." That phrase never meant anything good. I let out a slow breath, already preparing myself for whatever was coming. "All right," I said, setting my bag down. She took a steady inhale, as if she had rehearsed the next words carefully. Then, meeting my gaze, she said, "You need to earn my intimacy." I blinked, caught completely off guard. "What?" Her posture didn't change. "You heard me?" A disbelieving chuckle escaped me, but she remained rigid, as if she had just uttered some undeniable truth. "I don't feel the same anymore," she explained. "I don't know if it's me or you, but something is missing, and I don't want to force it." I studied her, trying to decode her words. Missing. What exactly did she mean by that? "You mean—" I shook my head, searching for clarity. "Are you saying affection? Connection? What's gone, Fiona?" "All of it." She hesitated, then added, "I don't feel drawn to you like I once did. But I want to. I just think that if you put in more effort, if you tried harder, maybe we could get it back." Something inside me shifted. Not quite anger, but understanding. She wanted me to prove myself, as if I hadn't already spent years investing everything into this marriage. I searched her face for any hint that this was some kind of test, a joke, anything to make it make sense. But she was resolute. I exhaled sharply. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice sharper than before. "You're saying I have to prove myself to you? Like I'm competing for a reward?" She shrugged slightly. "It's not about proving anything. It's about making me feel wanted." Wanted. As if I hadn't spent every day showing her exactly that. As if she had ever stopped to consider whether I felt wanted in return. My jaw tightened. I glanced away, forcing myself to remain calm. If I let my frustration show, she'd turn it against me. Instead, I asked, "And what about me? Don't I need to feel wanted too? Or does that not matter?" She sighed, weary. "I don't know, Nathan. I just know I need more." And that was it. This wasn't about us. This wasn't about fixing things. It was about her. I thought back to every compromise, every sacrifice I had made to keep our marriage running smoothly. All the times I'd prioritized her needs over mine. And still, it wasn't enough. Now, suddenly, I had to fight for something I'd assumed was secure. The worst part? She didn't even seem nervous about saying it. I didn't argue that night, not because I agreed, but because I needed time to process. Fiona expected me to chase her. She wanted me to scramble, to jump through hoops to prove I was still worthy of her affection. But instead of reacting, I observed. And immediately, the game began. The first few days, she tested the waters with subtle comments. One morning over coffee, she idly stirred her cup and remarked, "You used to surprise me more." I nodded, saying nothing. That evening, while scrolling through her phone on the couch, she sighed dramatically. "Wow. My coworker Justin just surprised his wife with a weekend getaway. So romantic. Can you imagine?" Bait. I didn't bite. She glanced at me, waiting for some kind of response. An insecure, "Well, I've done nice things for you too," or a guilty, "Maybe I should plan something." But I refused to play. "Cool," I said, eyes on the TV. Her lips pressed into a thin line. That's when she started trying harder. The next phase was visual. She began dressing differently. Tight skirts, full makeup, perfume she hadn't worn in years. At first I thought she was doing it for herself. But then I noticed how often she lingered in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair, sneaking glances at me, waiting for a reaction. A compliment. A sign that I noticed. But I didn't give her one. I could sense her frustration growing. One evening, as I scrolled through my phone on the couch, she walked past me, deliberately slow, wearing a dress that accentuated every curve. She paused at the hallway mirror, adjusted an earring, flicked her hair over one shoulder. She was waiting for me to look up, to say something, to validate her. I kept my eyes on my phone. She cleared her throat. "I don't know why I even bother looking nice." Without missing a beat, I replied, "Then don't." She hesitated, watching me intently. When I offered nothing in return, not a glance, not a word, she pivoted sharply and walked away. By morning, she had withdrawn into herself. Not distant, not hostile, just waiting, expecting me to falter, to retract the things I hadn't even spoken aloud, to hand her an apology she knew she wasn't owed. But I didn't. And once she realized that, she adjusted. She started arranging her life without me in it. Her plans no longer included my presence. She filled her days with friends, casually name-dropping colleagues, especially the men, like they had naturally come up in conversation. I saw through it immediately. One evening, as I poured a drink, she appeared in the doorway, her heels clicking against the hardwood, a sleek black dress accentuating her frame. Her makeup was sharper, her hair deliberately styled. She moved unhurriedly, reaching for her clutch on the counter, fingers idly grazing the surface. "I might be out late," she remarked, her voice effortlessly indifferent, but her eyes remained locked onto mine, expectant. She wanted me to ask, "With who?" To react, to frown and say, "Late? Where?" She needed confirmation, proof that it still mattered to me, that she still mattered to me. I took a slow sip of my drink. "All right," I said smoothly. "Enjoy yourself." For the briefest second, her expression faltered. A flicker of something, annoyance, frustration, before she masked it again and strode out the door. And that's when it struck me. This wasn't about us anymore. This was about control. And she was losing hers. The more I disengaged, the more unsettled she became. Her approach shifted, abandoning subtle games for more overt reactions. The offhanded mentions of other men, the veiled allusions to a life beyond us, they disappeared. In their place, a sharper edge took root. The confrontations started small. One night, as she got ready for bed, she turned abruptly and snapped, "You don't even try anymore." I lay on my side, scrolling through my phone. I didn't look up. "Try what?" She gave a short, humorless laugh. "To fix this. To care. Do you even care about us anymore?" Setting my phone aside, I met her eyes. "And what exactly is broken, Fiona?" She hesitated, lips parting, but no words came. Eventually, she exhaled. "I don't know, Nathan. That's the problem." I nodded slowly. "So let me get this straight. You don't even know what's wrong, but I'm the one failing?" Her jaw clenched. Without another word, she turned her back and slipped under the covers. I exhaled, picked up my phone, and let the silence stretch between us. Then, things escalated. One night, she burst through the door, slamming her purse onto the table with enough force that I expected something inside to shatter. I glanced up from my dinner. Rough night? Arms folded, she stood rigid. Do you even realize how late it is? I glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. Yeah, I said, taking another bite. Her eyes narrowed. And that doesn't bother you? I swallowed. Should it? Silence. Her fingers dug into her arms, her face taut. She was holding something back, something she wanted to say but couldn't. Finally, she exhaled sharply. You don't care, do you? I set my fork down, wiped my mouth, and leaned back in my chair. She was waiting for a sign, concern, jealousy, anything that would prove I was still tethered to her. But I had nothing left to give. You want the truth, Fiona? My voice was even. She stared at me, unwilling to be the first to speak. No, I said. I don't. I watched as her expression shifted. Shock, then disbelief, then something else entirely. Fear. For so long, she had manipulated me into thinking I needed to fight for her. But now, it was her grasp slipping, and she had no idea how to stop it. That night, as we lay in bed, she didn't move. She was tense, motionless. I stared at the ceiling, feeling nothing. No sadness, no anger, not even relief. Just emptiness. And that's when I knew I was done. The next morning, I woke before her. Sitting at the edge of the bed, I listened to her slow, steady breathing. There was nothing left to repair, nothing worth salvaging. The certainty settled over me like a truth I had always known, but never acknowledged. It was over. I went to the kitchen, brewed coffee, and stood by the window, watching the world outside. Behind me, I heard her approach, her footsteps tentative. She lingered before speaking. Morning. Morning. She poured herself a cup of coffee, casting a glance my way, waiting for me to break the silence. When I didn't, she sighed. Look, about last night. I turned to face her, cutting her off. I want a divorce. The words shattered the stillness between us. She blinked. What? I took a sip of coffee, letting the moment stretch. Then calmly I repeated, I want a divorce. A sharp, incredulous laugh escaped her. You're just upset. But I wasn't. Not anymore. She flicked her wrist dismissively, as though swatting away an insignificant thought. You'll move on, she murmured. I shook my head. No, Fiona, I won't. That was when I saw it. Not sadness, not guilt, but fear. A raw, unguarded terror flashed in her eyes. Her grip tightened around the coffee mug as she swallowed hard. You're serious? Yeah, I said, my voice firm. I am. She studied me for a long moment, as if seeing me clearly for the first time. Then she scoffed, shaking her head. You're being ridiculous. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her gaze flitted around the room, searching for an escape route, for some way to flip the situation to her advantage, the way she always did. But this time, she had nothing. No justifications, no manipulations, no twisted logic to keep me ensnared. Because, for the first time in years, I was no longer playing by her rules. That night, I packed my bags. She sat on the couch, arms folded, watching in silence. No arguments, no pleas, no desperate attempts to stop me. She still believed this was temporary, just another argument that would end with me caving. She assumed, as always, that I'd come back. But she was wrong. When I zipped up the final suitcase and grabbed my keys, I lingered at the door. Some part of me expected her to say something, anything to make this real. But she didn't. She remained there, lips pressed into a firm line, her gaze lowered. I exhaled, turned the knob, and stepped outside. She didn't stop me, and I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I had my own place. It wasn't extravagant, just a modest apartment, the kind of space that signified a fresh start, but it was mine. No more silent treatment, no more walking on eggshells, no more waiting for someone else to decide if I was worthy of love. At first, the silence felt strange. The space, the autonomy, it all seemed unfamiliar, as if I had to rewire myself to embrace them. I expected regret to creep in, the gnawing sensation that I had abandoned something worth saving. But it never came. Instead, I felt weightless. I felt free. I started reclaiming the pieces of myself I had neglected. The gym, old hobbies, friendships I had let slip away. And then, by chance, I met Mia. There was no calculated effort, no desperate search. It just happened. With her, everything was different. No games, no hidden expectations, no emotional minefields waiting to detonate. It was effortless. It was real. We spent more time together. Coffee dates, long walks, conversations that stretched into the night. I hadn't been looking for something new, but I found it anyway. And then, one evening, as we strolled through the city, hand in hand, sharing quiet laughter, I felt it. A shift in the air, a sharp, piercing gaze cutting through the warmth of the moment. I turned, and there she was, Fiona. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at me as if she'd seen a ghost. For a moment, she didn't move. Then, with slow deliberation, she stepped forward. Nathan. Her voice was small, uncertain, like she wasn't convinced I was real. I nodded. Fiona. Her eyes flickered between Mia and me, the realization settling in. You moved on? Mia squeezed my hand. I met Fiona's gaze, my voice steady. Yeah, I have. Her lips parted slightly, her expression stunned, as if she had never once considered the possibility of my happiness without her. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. For a second, I thought she might say something, try to bend the moment to her will. But she didn't. Instead, she turned sharply and walked away, her movements stiff, too controlled, like she was barely holding herself together. I watched her disappear into the crowd, and I knew. This wasn't over. That night, the calls started. Then the texts. How could you move on so fast? Did I mean nothing to you? We need to talk, please. I ignored them. Then she found Mia online and sent her a message. Stay away from my husband. I had expected something like this. Desperation always drove her back to me. And sure enough, one night, she showed up at my apartment. Nathan, please, she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. I made a mistake. I exhaled slowly. No, Fiona. You made a choice. She shook her head violently. You're my husband. I met her stare, unwavering. Not anymore. She pleaded, sobbed, tried to rewind time and pull me back into the life I had left behind. But none of it mattered. I was done. I'm happy now, Fiona. Don't come here again. Her mouth opened like she had something left to say, but I had nothing left to hear. I took a step back and closed the door. For a moment I stood there, staring at it. But there was no doubt, no second guessing, only certainty. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited about what came next. This story has come to an end. Love is not a one-way game. When a relationship turns into a fight for attention, manipulation, and control, it's no longer love. It's a trap. No one should have to earn the right to be loved. True feelings are built on mutual respect, care, and support, not on tests and challenges. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not to fight for someone who doesn't appreciate you, but to let go and save yourself. Choose people who see your worth without conditions. Be with those who don't make you prove your love, but simply love you. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you